So Ghana has a staggering 1.8 million housing deficit, but yesterday a bold attempt was made to reduce it with the launch or the sword-cutting ceremony for the National Affordable Housing Program. The aim is to reduce this deficit and also ensure that people have access to homes, especially for those who are wondering where they will lay their heads after possibly going on retirement or whilst in active service. The minister who is responsible for this novelty joins us here. Francis Asenso-Boakye is also the Member of Parliament for Bantama in the Ashanti region. Honorable Minister, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yesterday was great. I mean, finally the sword cutting was done. The dream of people to own their own home could become a reality in the next 16 months. What went into deciding to go this way? Because we've witnessed in times past how government approached the housing industry and how government approached in terms of building to address the deficit. What went into deciding this model?
Thank you. As I indicated yesterday, this is not the first time government is coming out with an affordable housing program. We experienced one under President John Ejikumpufo, where 5,000 houses were supposed to build in 6 towns in Ghana.
Right.
But it didn't achieve the expected results because of issues associated with the project conception and funding. It's an issue of Sagleme, which also didn't achieve the expected results.
I guess we'll come to that very soon.
That's okay. When I assumed office, I thought it was important for us to review these attempts by successive governments and why they have not been able to achieve the expected results. And one of the things that we found out that government, first of one, was that there was no serious feasibility studies that were conducted for the last 2 major affordable housing programs, and therefore we didn't really establish the viability of the project before we committed funds to it. For instance, the issue of that of President Kufuor Affordable Housing Program, when President Kufuor left office, it was easy for the new administration to abandon it,
right?
Because no dedicated funds was good for that. The same as Sagleme. It's obvious that not enough work was done in terms of feasibility studies and all that. Secondly, we realized that for the 2 projects, it was the responsibility of government to find land, infrastructure, and the housing units itself, including the sale of the units. All these were going to be done by the government.
100% government responsibility.
Yes. But this one, there's a complete departure. This one, government is only subsidizing these affordable housing homes so that it becomes affordable, so to say, for the ordinary Ghanaians too. How did we come by that? We realized that statistics shows that 60% of Ghanaians require some sort of assistance from the state to be able to access housing. That 35% can actually not access housing at all, even with government support.
Meaning they can never own their own home.
Of course, I mean, of course, but that's reasonable. Even in America, a lot of people, there are even homeless people in America.
Right.
Exactly. So, and only 5% of Ghanaians can access their own house, build or buy houses on their own without support. So, government decided to target the 60% of Ghanaians who need government support. And how can government support? We look at the various components of housing construction. The cost. Land is key.
Right.
Infrastructure services on the land is key. But these are the areas that we thought government can easily absorb. Of course, government has some public land that we can leverage on, which we are currently doing. The Pokuasi land was a government public land, which the president decided that let's use it for housing for Ghanaian people. And the infrastructure on the land, roads, electricity, water, and sewage, drainage. These are traditional responsibilities of government.
Right.
So we are leveraging on it to reduce the cost of construction. It's believed that these can even constitute about between 30 to 40% of the construction cost. Once that is reduced, then it becomes affordable. So that we invite the private sector to come in and build and sell. Okay, that is the model.
That's the model, right?
And that is the prevailing model across many parts of the continent that we are using, because we all acknowledge the important role of the private sector in everything that we are doing, so that government and the private sector will form a partnership to produce this affordable home. That is the striking difference between what has been happening in the past and what we're currently trying to
do. So in the past, government contributed everything. Exactly. Now government is contributing only the land and the other amenities that should come with it. And it is the developer to now provide the rest.
Exactly.
That is how come we are seeing, for some, the pricing appears to be on the low side compared to how much.
Of course, because we believe strongly that it will contribute to the reduction of the construction cost by up to 40%. Okay, so that will mean that the price of the building can also be reduced by up to 40%.
We'll come into who qualifies and how somebody can apply to own a home when it is done, hopefully in October 2024. But yesterday we were told that the entire sum runs up to $550 million US. Is that the figure?
Well, I don't know who gave you that figure. I didn't say that.
Right.
But what I know is that government funding of the infrastructure aspect of the project is going to cost the state $47 million dollars. $47 million. That is the infrastructure side. The rest, which is the housing units itself, are going to be funded by the private sector entities. They are going to raise their own money and build and sell.
All right. So the amount involved, I mean, this has been welcomed by a cross section of the public, especially those who are looking forward to owning them in the future. But then also, some have also questioned why you would not put that resources into completing, especially the Saglami housing project, which has been outstanding for some time now. Why wouldn't you want to finish that, sell them out before starting a new one? But what is your response to those who are demanding this clarity?
Okay, that's a very good one. But since you have jumped into Saglami, it means we are not coming back to the.
No, we'll come back. We'll come to look at the details in terms of
the issue of Saglami. It's not a simple matter,
right?
And if you give me time, I'd like to provide some information,
absolutely,
so that people will understand it. The government of Ghana in 2012 contracted a private developer under a loan agreement which Parliament approved for the contractor to construct 5,000 affordable housing homes in Saglami at a cost of $200 million.
Right.
Everything was Parliament approved, contracts were signed, implementation agreements were signed, and all that. At the end of the stipulated completion date, only 1,500 houses had been produced out of the 5,000. And even that 1,500, they were at different stages of completion. Some were at 90%, some were at 5% foundation level. Okay? And none of them, even assuming one of them was even 100% complete, nobody could even live in that building. The place were not habitable.
Even as we speak?
Of course, even then and now, the place is not habitable. And why am I saying that? There's no access to water, there's no access to electricity, serious sewage challenges there. So there's no off-site infrastructure where you are connecting water from a water source to the site, no electricity connection to the site. So it's not habitable. Okay. Then it was there that the previous minister realized that something was wrong, and police were invited to investigate, and after the investigation they recommended for prosecution of certain individuals. But when I assumed office, And that was the time that the investigation had been completed and the court processes. I wrote to the Attorney General to ask for permission to, you know, go in to start the process of reviving the project.
Right.
Regardless of the court proceeding, which the Attorney General gave us the go ahead. Then we put together experts, you know, to advise us on how much it will cost and all that. Then we realized that connecting water from the nearest water source to the site to cater for the 1,500 housing units was going to cost government $30 million. Water alone. In fact, Ghana Water Company, even the estimate was even higher, much higher than Community Water and Sanitation. And these are public agencies. Electricity, you got the estimate from ECG, $8 million to connect electricity from the nearest source to that site.
Or outside the already $200 million that had gone into it.
Yes. The $20 million had been spent already, yet they were only able to produce only 1,500 who were not habitable. Okay. The estimates they provided for off-site infrastructure alone, we needed $46 million to provide off-site infrastructure. Now, apart from that, there are on-site works. Okay, these 1,005 units that are at various stages of completion. In fact, some had deteriorated, needed to fix some of them and all that. The estimate was that from AESL, you needed almost, it was $29 million. There is a serious sewage system there that was not fixed. That one is 8,000.
So you are looking at almost $100 million.
There's a serious drainage challenge, without which it will be very difficult to live there. That one is $5 million. So the on-site works alone, including some amenities which will make it possible for people to live there, like school, like 1,500. If you put people there and you don't build a school, it will not make sense. Exactly. So when you put all that together, it was going to cost the state $140 million.
$140 million
to be able to revive the Sagleme affordable housing project. And even with that, look at the distance. It's more than 2.5 hours from Accra to get there. Assuming government had the money and used that extra money to fix it, who is going to buy that property and live there, especially in that majority of Ghanaians are working in the city center? It's going to be difficult. Meanwhile, I had the program that I had presented to government, which we were able to launch yesterday. It's going to cost government $47 million to produce 8,000 affordable housing units. If that is done, it will be unprecedented. No government has successfully done that. But because it's a public-private partnership, government's commitment is just $47 million. The rest is going to be invested by the private sector, and they will build and sell. So that is the difference.
That's the difference.
Let me ask you a question. If you are a manager of state resources and you are confronted with these scenarios, $47 million to produce 8,000 houses at a location that is just about 20 minutes drive from the city center, and $140 million to complete 1,500 units at a location that is 2 hours, 30 minutes, and even more from the city center, where will you put your money to? At a time that is difficult to raise funds globally, after COVID and the Russian invasion of Iraq.
Well, I mean, from my own point of view, I think that in terms of value for money, you go for the new initiative that you launched. But again, the question people will ask is, so therefore, what happens with Sagleme? Is it going to just be left like that?
Earlier, I had come out to announce a cabinet decision And I think President, when he was speaking, even confirmed that. Government thought it to be a good idea to invite a private sector entity to come in and invest. A private sector entity that has the financial standing and also the technical know-how to be able to change the whole project and make it attractive. Okay, there are other lands, you know, as part of the Sagalemi housing project that they can take advantage of and do new development, build a whole community and make the place attractive with other amenities.
All right.
Yes.
So today, for example, we're told that the PPA has opened up.
Exactly.
For
we sought the approval of the PPA to give us the chance to select some reputable transaction advisors to lead the process. We have started the process. Very soon, once we select it, the transaction advisor is going to guide the government or the ministry through the process, because it's important that we ensure transparency and accountability at every process. I remember when I first announced that government is seeking private sector entity to take over and complete it. Some people, you know, say that we are going to sell it to family and friends and all that. That was quite unfortunate. Nobody is interested in that. But we are interested in bringing a private sector entity that has the capacity financially and the technical know-how to take the project forward and revive it and make it a viable project.
Well, and I guess the issue relating to whether or not those who were at the helm of affairs at the time did a good job is the reason why they are before court.
Exactly.
So let's move away from that and then now look at the National Affordable Housing Program, and then the feasibility studies that in your estimation was not done right in terms of Sagalemi. This project, and I've heard the use of local materials for the building, the issue about water and electricity. Have all of this been done to ensure that it does not suffer what previous projects have?
No, like I said, thorough feasibility studies were done. In fact, it was a requirement before Finance Ministry will commit funds to. And after the feasibility studies, it went before a panel of experts who sat on it and approved it before the Ministry of Finance committed funds to it. Of course, I did mention the use of local materials. That's one of the strategies we want to adopt to address the housing deficit, housing issues in the country. Because one of the reasons why it costs so much is because all our building materials, raw materials, are imported. And it's become even difficult lately because of the current global crisis.
So what kind of indigenous raw materials are we talking about?
I'm talking about, for now, the burnt bricks, clay, which we have huge deposits in many parts of the country, in the Ashanti region, in the Central region, in the Bonafo region. But unfortunately, they are still expensive.
Right.
Okay. It's because the industry is not developed. We want to use this project as a catalyst for people to realize that, hey, this burnt bricks can be used. People develop interest in it, develop the taste for it, because many people don't want to use the burnt bricks. If you're able to create demand for it, it will also create supply for it, and you can have mass production and you can enjoy economies of scale. And in that case, the prices of these raw materials, burnt bricks, will come down. Then we develop the raw material, the local building materials industry, so that the average cost will come down, and it will help in our local housing industry.
State Housing Corporation is one of the contractors or one of the developers that have taken advantage of this and is working on. Apart from the state housing, we understand that the others are from the private sector.
Yeah, they are all from the private. State housing pretty much is a private sector. It's owned by the state, all right, but it's in the market to make profit. Yeah. And
the 60% that you are targeting, that you want to address their housing needs. Now let's look at the cost. Studio around 20,000.
One bedroom
20,000. 20,000. Two bedroom 30-something thousand.
34,000.
And then 3 bedroom. So what is the financing arrangements, is it a case that's going to be a one-off payment, or they'll have to pay it within a certain period of time?
Okay, so the Ministry of Finance has a program called Home Ownership Fund. That one is a blended financing arrangement between the government and some selected banks. That government subsidizes the banks to provide mortgage arrangement, mortgage facilities to workers or any person who has a dedicated source of income. Okay, that fund is going to help finance 10% of these housing units.
Okay.
Originally, the idea was to do more, but we are all aware of our current financial situation. So government is not going to be able to provide a lot more subsidies as we had envisaged.